Bennett Davison with the EuroHooplife podcast. We're here with Coach Dean Murray. We're going to talk about South Korea. Coach, let's jump right into it. Give me the expectations of what before you were going over to South Korea. Once you got there, what went down? How did you feel about it? And you said it was a great experience.
Right. I first went over to South Korea in 2008.
Okay.
Right previous to that, I had been an assistant with the now defunct Anaheim Arsenal of the NBA D-League.
Yep.
It was the D-League back then. But during that season, I had been doing most of the Korean teams will hire somebody on the ground in America to do their scouting for them.
Okay.
And they like to have guys who are in, levels like the D-League because D-League level players translate really well in South Korea.
Okay.
And I had been doing the scouting that season for the South Korean team, actually LG Electronics. And they had a position come up the next summer. Annually, the Koreans have a exposure camp in Las Vegas every summer.
Yes,
and that's where they
pick a couple times. How did you find that? We'll discuss about that exposure camp probably in a short little 3 to 5 minute, but I'd like to hear more about that later.
Right. And so that summer, they brought me in to help them scout at the camp. And this was one of the years that they were going to add a foreign assistant to the team, and they had a new coach. And the team drafted a player that I had coached that season, Ivan Johnson, who later went on to play with Atlanta Hawks.
Okay.
And since I had worked with Ivan that year, they were interested in me coming over, and that's how I got my start in South Korea.
And so what city were you in? How big was the city that you were in? What was the team name? Let's get into the details specifically about that one team.
Okay. The first season I was there, I was with the LG Sakers,
okay.
which is LG Electronics.
Yep.
LG, Samsung, big companies like that originate out of South Korea. We lived in Seoul.
Okay.
Which is, just like New York City, 13 million people.
So
really nice. Yeah, it's big. And then we lived in actually the Olympic Park section. It's called Banggi-dong. So near the Olympic Village and everything. So a nice area. So that's where I lived. And probably 30 minutes, 20 minutes by train to get into downtown Seoul.
Okay, so you're kind of in the suburbs, and you're just kind of like living in. I'm from Dallas, so it'd be like living in North Plano or Frisco, and you can always visit.
Exactly.
You're not down in the chaotic area of what the downtown center points.
Exactly.
Nice. So once you got there, what did they put you up in an apartment? What were the facilities like? What was the setup like? Because I know you can go to some countries, and in Puerto Rico, you go to, and there's like 8 different little practice facilities, and everybody plays in one game on that day,
right,
the whole day. Or do you have your own local gym? Like how many teams? Go into the details about what it was like once you were coaching and the season was rolling.
Right. So the South Korean league is, I guess the way I describe it, is unbelievable.
Okay.
Knowing just the history of South Korea itself, we've had a troop present there for 60 years since the Korean War. And we actually have the most troops stationed in the world in South Korea.
Okay.
So I always joke with everybody that, just remember what I'm saying and don't let anybody tell you anything different. South Korea is our 51st state.
Okay.
It's real easy for an American to live there. Anything we have, they have. Outback, Fridays, Wendy's, McDonald's, Hardee's, anything that you could ask for as an American to be in South Korea, they have.
So there's nothing better to leave and enjoy a foreign country, but come back and eat all the American food and not lose any weight.
And they also too. I mean, it's great because when you're over there, you want to do the Korean thing, the Korean culture. And, anybody that's had Korean barbecue knows how great that is or whatever. But,
yeah.
And, drink some soju. But as far as the facilities are first class.
Okay. So you're doing college-sized stadiums and great seating.
I mean, the system over there is for the Korean players, they live in a dorm-type setting. And the facilities are in the dorm, in the building.
So it sounds like
and then they have a full.
living.
Yeah, they have a full-time kitchen there. They serve 3 meals a day. As a foreigner and the 2 American players we had our own apartments, maybe 5 or 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
But before practice in the morning, if you want to stop in there and get some breakfast, eat lunch on the way out, and eat dinner after practice at night, it's available to you.
It's all
and then the Koreans live there full time.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's just like the college setting where you can go and eat,
Yes.
sleep, live, breathe, study, family, everything's designed for you to have because I hear do a lot of these interviews, and sometimes it's like they're scrambling around to figure out how to maintain that lifestyle. It sounds like South Korea has it all, a well-oiled machine for you to succeed.
And all 10 teams have the same setup.
Okay. And there's 10 teams in that Division 1. What's the 10?
Yeah, they have 10 teams in the league.
Okay. And so once you get, we already talked about the facilities. Let's talk about the finances. I talked to Lynn Washington. Japan is just like, it's a well-oiled machine. It's very honorable. What you sign for is what you get. How are the financial situations over there?
Korea has always been one of the highest paid leagues in the world. When I was over there, the minimum salary at that time was $25,000 a month for the Americans. And at this point, they had a salary cap when they would go, they have 2 players making that much, and each year they change the setup as far as how many times you can have the Americans on the floor.
Yep.
But now in the last few years, the Korean League has gone free agency.
Okay.
So they're really getting some high-level players in the country now. And as far as I know, the league has been in place since 1997, and not one team has missed one payment in the history of the league.
That's what we like to hear. And that's one of the things is with EuroHooplife, we want to be able to have this be an Angies List, a information bank, an archive of, hey, you know what? These teams, we may push them down on the end, but over there, these are probably one of the best places where you want to be able to come play, not worry about, like, I played in Olympiacos, Galatasaray. Payday was on Sunday. You're guaranteed 2-3 weeks where they're not going to pay it. Some countries, you go to France, payday's on Sunday. You're going to get it that Friday before, and it's sitting in your bank. And as a professional athlete and a professional coach, one of the things is like you want to go out there and focus on the basketball, focus on being together. And if you can't, if everybody in the locker room comes together, is like, what are you doing? He's like, man, I'm so sick and tired of this nonsense. It's a discouraging situation, so it's good to hear positive reviews on team situations.
And then the travel is really nice. So that, every team has the big bus, TVs on it, single seats for the players. It's really custom bus. And the longest ride you'll take in the country is 3.5 hours.
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah. So, it's real easy travel. It's real, and I think the greatest thing for the players and the coaches too, like myself, different than Europe is there's not, 10 teams, you play 6 rounds, 9 games a round. You play 54 games, and you're playing 2 and 3 games a week. Yeah. You're not playing on Saturday and Sunday. Monday's the off day for the league, but you might play four games one week, and 2 games the next week. But, once you get going into it, as a player and everything, it's just not a lot of monotonous practice going on.
Yeah, and
playing.
That's what I felt like in Europe. It's like, let's just get 2 a days just to get us in the gym 2 hours a day. But the games are Wednesday and Saturdays. And there's those 2 days of like, my body's breaking down. Let's get this going. So let's finish up. How was the last final words of the experience that you had over in South Korea? Let's wrap up the interview. Like, what were the positive?
Yeah, I was over there. I've been over there 3 seasons, okay. 2 years with LG, and then one other season with the team Anyang KGC, which is basically the Korean ginseng, the #1 ginseng in the world. So, but just having being at 2 different places is virtually the same though. Okay. You're always going to get paid on time. I think for the players and me also too, if you're lucky enough, you get it worked out a little bonus. I think the players typically would get $300 a game if you win. And the coach comes in right after the game and hands you an envelope with $300 bills in it.
Nothing wrong with that. Well, Coach, thank you for your insight and your experience and the time that you shared. I'll be putting this up on EuroHooplife YouTube channel, and hopefully this will be able to better inform basketball players and coaches for their experience in South Korea.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Coach.